Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Menstruation in the Hanbali madhab. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Salatu wassalam ala Rasul Kareem. Rabbana taqabbal minna. Zidna ilma wa hikma wa huda. أسأل الله أن يوفقنا لما يحب ويرضى ينفعنا ما علمنا وعلمنا بما ينفعنا اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد عبدك ورسولك النبي الأمي وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما اللهم آتنا نفوسنا تقواها وزكها أنت خير من زكاها أنت وليها ومولاها اللهم ارحم شيوخنا أما بعد. All the praises belong to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and may peace and blessings be upon Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is an example that we follow. We continue on the madhab of Ahmad Ibn Hanbal, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy upon him, as explained by Ibn Qudamah, Ibn and today we're going to talk about the hayd, or the menstruation for the women. And hayd is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that about all the women in the world, they're all daughters of Adam, and what happens is they have the hayd as a natural thing for them, for all the daughters of Adam, Banati Adam. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that in the Quran, يَسَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْحَيْضِ قُلْ هُوَ أَذًى فَاعْتَزِلُوا النِّسَاءَ فِي الْحَيْضِ. So that's mentioned in the Quran also, the menstruation. Okay, now we'll read the first one, from top up there.
Performing prayers.
Okay, the 10 things are forbidden in the hayd when the woman is in a state of menstruation. These 10 things are forbidden. Okay, what's the first one?
Performing prayers, salat, and its obligations.
Yes, salat is not allowed for a woman when she's in the hayd, in the menstruation. No way, don't use the phone, please. Okay, pay attention, okay? Okay, the hayd is the woman, she's not allowed to pray the salat, and she doesn't have to make up the salat either if she doesn't pray the salat. So that's the thing about it for the hayd in the menstruation. And some people, they might think, the woman is, they're happier, they're better off. But Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he mentioned about that it's a lack in the deen, in the faith, because the more a person they pray, the more they're closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The salat is closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the woman misses out on that situation, on praying. So it's not something that's the person should feel that it's good for them, but actually it's not good for them. Okay, no, we don't use a phone, no way, okay? Can you go to number 2? What's number 2? What else you can't do?
Fasting. You can.
Yes. So in the Ramadan, what happens is people, they fast in Ramadan, but the women, they're not allowed to fast in Ramadan, and likewise on the other times as well, they don't fast. And if their menstruation starts in the middle of the day, then what happens is the rest of the day that she doesn't have to fast the rest of the day, but just to keep the spirit of it, that she doesn't eat or drink. So that's the other thing about the fasting. However, the fasting, she has to make that up. She has to make up the days that she missed in Ramadan. So if she misses 7 days in Ramadan, then she has to make it up in the days afterwards, those 7 days. And she should do it before the next Ramadan comes. If she doesn't make it up until the next Ramadan comes, then she still has to fast those days, and she also has to feed a poor person as well for delaying it too long to make it up. Okay, that's the second thing. And what's number 3?
Circuiting the
Yes, well, tawaf. Tawaf is going around the Kaaba, and what happens is the tawaf, you need to have the purification just like in the salat, except the difference is that you're allowed to talk when you do the tawaf. That's the difference. So a person, they have to have a state of wudu, and they have to be in ghusl, and they can't be in the menstruation to do the tawaf. So that's the case. And the tawaf is just like the salat, except that you can talk in it. And so that's the third thing. Number 4, what is it?
reciting.
Yes, that's what the Sheikh, he says over here. And this over here, there is some ikhtilaf in the ulama. And one of the things that you find that the most ikhtilaf is the woman in the hayd and the Quran. There's a lot of different views on the ulama Quran. But over here, the Sheikh over here, he says that she's not allowed to recite the Quran. So there are different views in the different ulama about the Quran. and especially if the woman, she has to review her Quran so that she doesn't forget. So some of the ulama, they say that it's okay for her to recite the Quran, to review it. But the thing is, the Quran, again, it's a word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so the person should be in purity when they're reading the Quran, because the Quran is pure from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, number 5. What's number 5?
Touching the Qudamah.
Touching the Mus'haf. That's number 5, the Quran. So that's another issue about somebody that's not in a state of purity. And many ulama, they say the same thing. Touching the Mus'haf, you have to be in a state of wudu as well to touch the Mus'haf. And for the woman also, if she's in the hayd, then she doesn't touch the Mus'haf. And that's what Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, La yamassu illa mutahhir, that only a person that's pure, they should touch the Mus'haf. Okay, read number 6.
Persisting in the masjid.
Okay, so a woman, she cannot stay a long time in the masjid, but what happens, she can pass through the masjid. So if she goes to the masjid, she can go through to pass through, go from one side to the other, but to stay in the masjid a long time, that's not allowed for her to do so. And some of the ulama, they said that in the past, what happened is the woman, when she's menstruating, a lot of times she wouldn't be able to control the bleeding that she had, and the bleeding would go to would be spread throughout the places. So some of the ulama, they said that's the wisdom behind it. So going through the masjid, that's not allowed. That's number 6. Okay, number 7.
Sexual intercourse.
Yes. So a woman that's in menstruation, the person, they're not allowed to have the sexual relation with her, and it's forbidden. أعتزلوا النساء في المحيط ولا تقربوهن حتى يتطهرن. It says in the Quran, and stay away from the women when they are in menstruation, and do not go near them until they become pure. Now what happens is, if a person, they do have the sexual relation with a woman in the hayd, in the menstruation, then they have a kafara for it, they have an expiation for it, where they have to give a dinar or half a dinar. It's a sadaqah if they do have the sexual relation with a woman, with the person's wife in the state of hayd, in the state of menstruation. They have to give 1 dinar or half a dinar, and that's mentioned in the hadith from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And some of the ulama, they say if it's heavy bleeding, it's 1 dinar, light bleeding, half a dinar. So when the woman is in hayd, it's not allowed for sexual relation. Okay, number 8, what is it?
So non-integrated divorce.
Okay, so in the issue of the divorce, people, to do the divorce in the right way, the way that's allowed, a person, they have to pronounce a divorce on the woman in a term where they did not have the sexual relation with her, in the term where she's pure, where they didn't have the sexual relation for her. So it's not allowed for a man to pronounce a divorce on a woman if she's menstruating, that's forbidden. And it's not allowed for a man to pronounce a divorce on a woman where he had a sexual relation with her in that term of purity. So that's the issue that's here. It's forbidden to have to pronounce a divorce on her when she's menstruating. And they call that the talaq al-bidi, the innovated divorce, and it's a forbidden divorce. And the other one where a person, they do it where it's allowed, it's called talaq al-sunni, the sunnah divorce. So the talaq al-sunni, a person, they wouldn't pronounce a divorce on a woman in the state of menstruation, because that's not allowed. Okay, need number 9, are we?
The imdad by months.
Yes. What happens is, when a person, if they pronounce a divorce, then the woman, she waits for herself, thalathata quru, 3 menstrual cycles she waits for her before the iddah is over, before the divorce is finalized. But if the woman, if she doesn't menstruate, then what happens is she waits 3 months. وَاللَّاتِي لَا تُحِدْنَ يَتَرَبَّصْنَ بِأَنفُسِهِنَّ ثَلَاثَةَ شُهُورٍ وَاللَّاتِي لَمْ يَحِدْنَ. And it's mentioned in the Quran that talks about that. Women that don't have the menstruation, her iddah is months. It's not the hayd. So what happens is, if a woman, she has the hayd, then we go by the hayd. If she has a menstruation, you go by the period, by the menstruation, not by the months. So that's why the Sheikh mentioned that you don't do 3 months if the woman has a menstruation, but you have to do 3 menstrual cycles. So that's why he mentions that number 9. So she waits the menstrual cycles, not waits the months that a woman that doesn't have the menstruation does, in her buffer period after if she's been divorced. Okay, let's read number 10.
It is obligatory to bathe after.
Okay, after the woman, her menstruation stops, then what she has to do is she has to do a full ghusl. She has to do a full bath on her. Okay, one interesting question in the fiqh is that what happens is it obligatory for non-Muslims to do these things? And the answer is, in the case of a Ahl al-Kitab, if a Muslim man, he married a woman, a Christian woman or a Jewish woman, Ahl al-Kitab, then they have the sexual relation, so the same thing happens for her. She has to bathe after her menstruation stops, then he can have the sexual relation for her. But that's interesting that even though she's not a Muslim, that she does do the bathing as well. So for the woman, when her menstruation stops, she has to do the ghusl, and then all those things mentioned before, it's allowed for her to do. Okay, read number 11.
Reach adulthood.
Bulugh. What happens is before the age of bulugh, a person, they don't earn the sins. And for a woman, when she reaches bulugh, they say that it's the menstruation. When her menstruation starts, then she's considered to be an adult, a bulugh. And then she's responsible for her sins after that. And when she reaches the age of bulugh, that's literally what that means. And the ulama, they say that what happens if, I think this might be mentioned later on, if the menstruation doesn't start and she reaches 15 years old, then she's considered bulugh. So when she has the menstruation, she's considered to be an adult bulugh. Okay? All right, number 12.
Determined by death by.
Yes. So the iddah of a menstruating woman is thalathat quru, so 3 cycles, 3 menstrual cycles. So what happens is she menstruates and she becomes pure. That's 1 cycle. Menstruates, becomes pure. That's 2 cycles. Menstruates, becomes pure. That's 3 cycles. Or you can do it the other way. She's pure and menstruates. That's 1 cycle. Pure and menstruates, 2 cycles. Pure and menstruates. That's 3 cycles. You can do it that way. So a woman that menstruates, you go by that, by the menstrual cycles. And thalathat quru means 3 menstrual cycles. That's what that refers to. It goes by that, the starting point and the ending point of the term of 3 of them is the menstrual cycle. Okay, number 13.
When the menstruation stops, it is allowed for fasting.
And?
Fasting and divorce.
Yes. So when her menstruation stops, then she has to fast after that. And also, immediately after that, a man can divorce his wife there, and that's a sunnah divorce, the sunnah talaq. But after he had the sexual relation with her, then he's not allowed to divorce her until she menstruates and becomes pure again. That's the issue for it. So if her menstruation stops, then she has to fast. She has to, it is allowed for her to fast. And also, this refers to the optional fast too. Because sometimes people, they fast 3 days in a month, or they fast Mondays and Thursdays. And for the woman, if she's menstruating, she can't do those optional fasts. But if she stops, if her menstruation stops, then she can do those optional fasts as well. Okay, inshallah, so number 14.
The rest is not allowed until she bathes.
Okay, so that's interesting. The menstruation, when it stops, then she can fast, and they can do the divorce. But the other things that are there, that she has to bathe first, and then she can do like the salat. She has to do the bathing, and then do the salat, reading the Quran, circulating the Kaaba, all those things. Her menstruation has to stop, and she has to do the ghusl, and then all those other things are allowed. Okay, that was mentioned before, the 10 things. Also, immediately after her menstruation stops, so that she can fast and she can be divorced. But those other things that are mentioned, she has to do the bath. Menstruate stops, then do the bath, and then the other things are allowed. Okay, all right, inshallah. So go to number 15.
Is it allowed to be intimate with the menstruating
Yes. So what happens is a person, they can touch his wife, kiss his wife, all the things, but everything below the waist is not allowed. The private part is not allowed, but all the other things are allowed, even though she might be menstruating. And in the time of Rasulullah, what happened is the Yahud, the women, when they were menstruating, they wouldn't even eat on the same table. So then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Prophet Muhammad said everything is allowed except for no below the waist for the woman. So a person, they could do the other things with a woman except for things in her private area. Okay, all right, inshallah. So number 16.
The saying of the Messenger of Allah, peace and be upon him, do everything except sex.
Yes. Isna'u kulla shayn ghayra nikah. So do everything except having the sexual intercourse. And what happens in nikah, the word over here means marriage, but literally it means the initiation, where it starts. So they use this in وَلَا تُنْكِهُونَ حَتَّى no, it's mentioned in the Quran, تُنْكِهُونَ. So the word in Arabic, nikah, it literally means having the sexual relation, having the sex with one's wife. And they call that for the marriage because that's where it initiates and when it starts. They call that nikah. And then afterwards, whenever a person they have the separation, it's called a nikah. So that's what Prophet Muhammad said. If a woman is menstruating, you do everything except the sex, except the intercourse. Okay, inshallah. So read number 17.
The minimum time of menstruation is day and night.
Yeah. So a woman, what happens is she menstruates. She has a cycle, and the ulama Quran, they gave a minimal time, 1 day and 1 night, 24 hours. And if she bleeds for less than that, then it's not considered to be menstruation because they have the minimal time. I think the Sheikh mentioned that afterwards, that if the bleeding is less than 1 day and 1 night, then it's not menstruation and she has to do all the things that's required for her during that time. Okay, let's read number 18.
And the maximum 15 days.
Yes, so the maximum time for a woman to have the menstruation is 15 days. And what happens is sometimes a woman, she might have continuous bleeding. Some women, they have it all the time. And there's a distinction between the menstruation and istihada, and the abnormal blood. So the ulama, they mentioned the maximum length of the menstruation, 15 days. 1 day and 1 night is the minimum, and 15 days is the maximum. Okay, let's go to number 19.
The minimum time for purity is 13 days.
Yes. So then you have the time when she's pure, and when she becomes pure, then maybe she might start bleeding in afterwards, but the minimum time is 13 days, that's what the Sheikh says. So if her menstruation stops, then 1 week later, 7 days later, if she sees blood, then that's not menstruation, because the minimum time of purity is 13 days, that's what the Sheikh goes by. Okay, so the minimum time is 13 days. Okay, number 20.
No limit on the maximum.
Yes. So the length of purity, the minimum time is 13 days, and there's not a limit on the maximum time. So if a woman, if she becomes pure, even if it's 6 months or 2 months or 3 months, then that's still considered to be the purity in her time, because there's not a limit on the maximum time. Not like in the menstruation, there's a limit on the maximum time, 15 days, but in the purity, there's not a maximum limit. There's just a minimum limit, which is 13 days, but no maximum limit. Okay, number 21.
The youngest age of a menstruating woman is 9 years.
Yes, so that's what the Sheikh mentioned. What happens is different women, they menstruate at different ages, and the minimum age is 9 years. If there's a woman less than 9 years, and then it's not considered to be menstruation for her. She's got to be at least 9 years old. Okay, and then 22, the oldest is?
Number 22, well, the oldest is 60.
Yes. So what happens is women in their life, what they do is they menstruate, and then when they reach an old age, they reach something that's called menopause. And the menopause is what happens, the menstruation stops. And the women, when they get older, then that's what happens. They don't have the menstruation anymore. And the Sheikh said here, the maximum age for that is 60 years old. So if she's 60 years old and any blood comes out at that time, that's not menstrual blood. because that's menopause. She's past the age of menopause, and that's the maximum age for menopause. Okay, all right, inshallah, let's go to 23.
Then you'll be menstruating. If she sees blood at the time of menstruation, she refrains.
Yes, okay, so the first time the woman, what happens when she's young, she doesn't have the menstruation, and then when she reaches that point in the bulugh, then she starts menstruating. So as soon as she sees the blood, then she doesn't pray the salat. But before that, she's got to pray 5 times a day. But if she, as soon as that blood comes out the first time, then she refrains from the salat, because it's not allowed for a woman to pray while she's menstruating. Okay, then read number 24. This goes along with the previous one.
Then if it stops in less than a day, at night it's not menstruation.
Yes. So the first time it comes out, there's blood that comes out. But then if it stops in less than 24 hours, less than a day and a night, then that's not considered to be menstruation. Because the Sheikh, he mentioned earlier, the minimum time of menstruation is a day and a night. It's 24 hours. So if the first time the woman's blood comes out and it stops in less than 24 hours, then that's not menstrual blood. Okay, all right, let's go to number 25.
If it exceeds that, but less than the maximum menstrual cycle, it is menstruation.
Yes, so the first time this woman menstruates, then if she menstruates more than 24 hours, more than 1 day and a night, and then it goes longer than that until 15 days, there's a 15 days is the maximum, then that's considered to be menstruation. So more than 1 day and a night, but less than the maximum time is menstruation. Okay, read number 26.
If it is repeated for 3 months with the same extent, then that is the menstrual cycle.
Yeah, so what happens, a woman, she has a cycle which happens every month, and it's the same cycle every month. And so what happens is she can keep track of that cycle and determine how long her menstrual cycle is. Usually it's 7 days for most women, but some women there might be less or might be more, but she has the same cycle, normally speaking, every month. So then the Sheikh said when she first menstruates and then she has that same term, the same frame, where she menstruates 3 months in a row, then that's considered to be her menstrual cycle. And the reason that it's good to know the menstrual cycle, because if there's more blood that comes out after that, then that's not menstrual blood. That's called the istihada blood, or the abnormal blood. And that's we have that on the next lesson on the istihada, on the rulings on that. That is the blood that comes out, that's not the menstruation. Okay, inshallah, so let's stop over here, inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala willing. So that's how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created all the daughters of Adam, all the women. Normally speaking, she starts her menstruation at a young age, at the age of puberty, and it lasts until the menopause. And the Sheikh, he mentioned 9 years old is the minimum age, and 60 years old is the maximum age. So the woman, they have those ages between those two, where her menstruation is there, and she has the normal cycle that she goes through. And if she's pregnant and she doesn't have the menstruation, she has that. And sometimes you have the abnormal bleeding. So you have all those issues that happen for a woman, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. And also when she has a menstruation, man is not allowed to go have the sexual relation with her in the private parts during that time. Okay, inshallah, so let's stop over here. Did you have any comments or questions? No, wait. Okay, inshallah. All right, inshallah. So the thing is, to bear in mind that what happens is, even though people are men, they have their daughters and they have their sisters, they have their mothers. So it's good for them, even though they are men, to know these rulings, so they can explain those things to them if that comes by, inshallah. Okay, so we'll stop over here. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. If I said anything from the ilm, then accept it and follow it. And if I said anything from myself, just disregard it. Don't go by it. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. And may peace and blessings, sallallahu ala Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Okay?